Hello, my name is Andy and I am the Village Idiot. I'm armed with a car and a GoPro and an unhealthy amount of time on my hands. I'm using that time to attempt to visit every civil parish in England. You're watching the North Lincolnshire series, a district of 56 parishes in the north of Lincolnshire. Let's see which one we're visiting today. Okay, today in North Lincolnshire, I've got a place which has one of these at its eastern end, a very large and very beautiful pond. There's plenty of other things here as well, including a church, which I've just been given sort of a guided tour around. You'll see how that went when we eventually get to that part of the video. This is the lovely village of Wootton. This North Lincolnshire episode is sponsored by Past Days, a family history blog by June Terrington. You'll find her link in the description. Here's my disclaimer for people who may be watching me for the first time. I say things as I would in my native accent and dialect. As a result, I may not pronounce things in the same way as the locals do. Remember, I'm a visitor. It's impossible to know everything. Leave me a comment, spin me a like and bash that subscribe button. Let's get to today's parish video. Welcome everybody to quite possibly the loveliest little village I've been to so far in North Lincolnshire, taking nothing away from all the others, of course. This is Wootton. It's situated 5 miles southeast of the nearest town, which is Barton upon Humber, and it's 7 miles northeast of Brigg. Wootton is an Anglo-Saxon settlement, and it's recorded in the Domesday Book as Udetone, which means the settlement in or by a wood. By Domesday Book standards, it was considered very large. The lordship of the manor was jointly held by Odo of Bayeux, a half-brother of William the Conqueror, and Ralph de Mortimer, the latter of whom was tenant-in-chief. A characterful village, its designation as a limited growth settlement by North Lincolnshire Council is something the locals want to retain, hence the signs currently all around the place. Stop the Build refers to an area of high-grade agricultural land that's been earmarked for development, some 38 properties in all, and the campaign to stop it has united everybody here. Current affairs aside for a few moments, our walk passes this small shelter, which acts like the village's book exchange. You'll note the bookshelf in the left of the structure. There's a parish notice board in here too, but this is much more than your average board. A local named Sally provides all the historical images and information you can see on this board. I'm thankful to her for these, but also for the information I was sent before I came here, detailing some of Wootton's history. I can't fit it all in, but it made my job simpler, that's for sure. For example, one thing I learned from her was that the wide grass verges around the village were formed as part of the Enclosure Act, not something I'd necessarily have found on my own. On the High Street, we have the old village pump, which was renovated in 2009. The High Street also once had a building which housed a saw pit, with 2 village carpenters sharing the resource. And a fascinating piece of history concerning the war. In 1941, 5 German bombs were dropped at the crossroads end of the village. You can still see the depression made by one of the bombs today. Once again, this is a place which has very few amenities. Whilst there's no longer a village shop or a post office, there are still some basics, like for example a school. This was founded in 1728 thanks to a local man, John Folding, as a thank you after his wife, Mary Uppleby, got lost whilst out walking in terrible weather. The church bell was used to guide her home. Over the road we have two old chapels. This one is the Primitive Methodist Chapel and the Wesleyan Chapel is coming up next. Wootton also has an ancient Quaker burial ground. The locals know it's in the corner of a field at the western end of the village, but no one knows exactly where. In 1668, Quakers were publicly excommunicated by the vicar of the village. Around the corner at the end of the road, we're now on Pondside. Next up is the Anglo-Saxon Church of St Andrew, partially constructed of stones that may have been part of Thornton Abbey. Whether that's true or not, it's built in the early English style and it was restored in 1851. The tower holds 4 bells, the oldest dating back to 1604, the very same one that guided Mary Uppleby home. Okay, so I'm in the church now, and the lovely church warden has just allowed me in, which is a good thing. Let's have a little look around, shall we? I know I've got a few followers who like stained glass. Let's have a look at this. Very nice. There's some memorials on the wall there. Let's check those out. John Uppleby, Esquire of Wootton House. Let's have a look at this one here. Oh, banging into the pews, that's a great idea. Lovely. Thank you very much.
See the vestry?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
It's not wonderful, but it's part of the church.
Yeah, it's part of the church, may as well. We don't normally see inside a vestry.
Get the keys.
Okay.
This way. And my husband, he sorts the clock out, so he was going to...
Oh, right, okay.
Staircase, yeah.
Brilliant.
I mean, if you want to go up there, it's at your own risk, or you want to wait for things to come and take you up there. It's quite...
Up the tower?
Yeah.
Ah.
Well, it's where he does the clock and everything. It's quite interesting.
Well...
And this is obviously
Here's the
all the
vestry.
vestments and everything, and it's quite nice. Okay.
We don't normally see this area of a church. This is normally something that... Oh, hi, there's me. Okay, we need to go up these steps to get to the bell tower. These are very steep, so... Ooh. Have to admit, this is not something you do every day. Oh. We're up. There we go. Good view over the church from here as well. Awesome. I was offered the opportunity to climb this spiral staircase as well to have a look at the workings of the clock, which you can see on the tower, but this was a bridge too far for me. That was quite an experience. We don't normally get to see that much of a church on the inside. There was no way I was going up that spiral staircase. I took about 2 or 3 steps and thought, no, just no. There's nothing to hold on to, there's no handrail, there's nothing, so I thought better of it. Let's go and have a look at something a little more safer, and that is the pub and the pond. Wootton's one and only public house is the Nag's Head. It's retained its name, but originally this was in a different place to where it is now. The first Nag's Head was also opposite the pond, like this is, but it's been converted into a dwelling and this newer version was built next door. It's full of little secrets, this place, isn't it? It really is no surprise Wootton came second in a 2009 Best Kept Village competition run by the Campaign to Protect Rural England, is it? Well, apart from why it didn't place first, I guess. Here's the village's pride and joy, the pond. This used to be called Wootton Dam and it's supplied by 1 or 2 natural springs. Around the dam or in its vicinity there were 7 huge stones. These were bluestone, which does not occur naturally in the area. According to a press cutting from 1883, the belief is that they were the remains of an ancient Druid temple. There used to be additional smaller ponds and a large water pump with access for a horse and carriage. There's a board here too, which details some of the wildlife on the pond. Okay, now this is the part of the route which may be a little boring. We've seen the main bits of Wootton. They're all laid out along that one street, and then you've got the church, the pub and the pond at the eastern end. Now I've got to make my way back to the western end, and to do that I've got to walk down here, take a right turn and then another right turn onto a road called Cherry Lane, and that effectively brings me back to the start. The only thing is, on the map it looks like these are sort of very countrified lanes, if I can use that term. There's not really anything on them. There's the odd property here and there, but they just seem to be blank, empty roads. Let's see what we can find. Well, we're not quite out of civilization yet. Next is the village hall, founded in 1948 and rebuilt in 1970. It was originally a wooden hut that was purchased from the disused airfield at nearby Elsham. There's a property on Swallow Lane called the Lawn, which is a notable old farmhouse once occupied by 2 generations of the Swallow family. Presumably, that's why the street is named as such. They were well-known farmers in Lincolnshire for breeding prize-winning shorthorns and pure Lincoln rams. Now, over there in the very far distance, I can see a church spire. That, I think, is the church at Ulceby. It would make sense. We're too far away from Kirmington for it to be that. But yeah, you can see that from here. I think the phrase blank empty streets might possibly be the worst turn of phrase I ever ad-libbed whilst recording. These are the roads in question now, and yes, they might be a little bereft of interest, but it gives me a chance to mention a few things. Wootton has a large mound locally known as Galley Hill. It's a Bronze Age round barrow dating from 2600 to 700 BC. Then we have a unique Romano-British linchpin in the form of an upright thumb, which was found by an agricultural worker in the 1980s. It was purchased by the North Lincolnshire Museum. Industry-wise, Wootton is still as reliant on farming as it has ever been. Check out the farmland here. There was a village windmill at one time as well, but it was demolished in the mid-20th century. I should also mention the Grade 2 listed Wootton Hall, which we won't be able to get to because it's private. It was built in 1796 for John Ulceby. It'll feature in today's picture bit. So this then is Cherry Lane, originally called Clay Lane because the land here is predominantly clay and limestone. If I'm honest, that was a pretty pleasant way to get back to the start. So we're back into civilization now on Cherry Lane. That wasn't boring in the slightest, actually, thinking about it. It was quite nice, considering there were some good views of the farmland to the south. You know me, being a Lincolnshire boy, I'll always like that. Housing in the village has certainly changed over the centuries. Sally's information told me some were originally described as mud and straw with thatched roofing. Over the years, they became uninhabitable and were replaced mostly by local red brick housing. Our last stop on the main walk is this yard, which I originally thought was a farm. It turns out there's a few businesses based here. One of them was called Eco Urea, and there's another called JHP Storage. This seems to be Wootton's main hive of industry these days. Oh, and you can catch a bus here as well. 2 in fact, the number 250 and the number 455, which both run between Humberside Airport and Cleethorpes Pier. That's alright for a day out. Now that's it for the main walk around Wootton. Now there's one big thing that I haven't been able to catch, and that's Wootton Hall, and that's going to form part of today's picture bit. So we've just got a couple more things to talk about before we wrap this one up. I've just come to this little park out to the west of Wootton. It's a little pocket park. I thought there was some play equipment in this, but clearly there isn't, unless it's hiding behind those trees. Nice area, and a good place to walk your dog as well, apparently. And there's one more thing that I want to talk about, and that's called the Five Fields Trail. To do that, we need to get back into the car and drive that way. Now, a long time ago in Derbyshire, we covered some places that are on the Five Pits Trail. Out here in Lincolnshire, we have the Five Fields Trail. And I didn't know a thing about this until about 20 minutes ago when I saw the marker for it on the map. It's basically just a footpath which runs, I presume, through 5 fields. And that's going to be one of them right there. Whether or not it's 5 fields that way and none the other way, I don't know, because there is a footpath on the other side as well. I'll just show you where it is. This is the road out of Wootton to the south, by the way, that leads towards Ulceby. Here's the footpath on the other side. There will be a way marker somewhere, I'm sure, but I can't see one at the moment. So whether it means that's one of the fields, I don't know. But yeah, the Five Fields Trail. That's somewhere else you can walk your dog, I suppose, if you so desired. If the park in Wootton was a little bit too short of a walk for you, you can walk through the 5 fields along the Five Fields Trail. That's been the parish of Wootton. What a lovely little place. Lovely place. Never been to it before at all. Some nice friendly folk. People who have stopped me and talked to me and told me all sorts of things about the village. It's helped me greatly in making this episode, and I do hope you guys have enjoyed watching what I've had to say about that lovely village here in North Lincolnshire. It's time for me to move on to my next one here in the district, and I'll see you when I get there. I've been Andy, also known as the Village Idiot. This has been the Parish of Wootton, and I'm out.